This is a presentation that was given at the Centre for Life, Newcastle, on the 28th and 29th of April 2014 for the OER 14 Building Communities of Open Practice. My name's Jo Neal. My background originally was in fine art, so I have a fine art degree, but that practice led to more of a textiles, fine art textiles type practice. I teach textiles and design-based degrees at University Centre, Blackburn College, and my recent MA focused on online and distance education. I'm currently doing my PhD at University of Glasgow with a focus on interdisciplinary practice, and for me that involves education, technology and creative process, particularly reflection supported by technology in teaching and learning. The project Making the Invisible Visible, using digital technologies to capture, recall and re-see the reflective process, is a current practice-led trial project. Making the Invisible Visible captures and documents the creative process of making a piece of work from idea through to final piece, using visual and audio technologies to make what would usually be hidden visible. So the film here is me recording myself making an observational drawing. I recorded my thoughts as voice memos, transcribed these as I listened to them again, wore a headcam to record, selecting the imagery to work with, and also recorded myself making drawings and the subsequent developmental work. I wrote and I talked about what I was doing, recording conversations and transcribed them. I also analysed the film of me making a drawing, observing how long I spent looking and how long I spent drawing. So this was captured in Camtasia software, and I used markers to look at how much time was spent looking and drawing, for example. Capturing the process, usually not preserved in such detail, enabled me to observe the work as part of the making process, but also to observe outside of the making process. So this is just some of the data produced from looking at that film. And I also documented conversations, so transcribed conversations, and sort of extracted my own thoughts and how my ideas had evolved through things like conversations. The auto-ethnographic process enabled observations to be made of my creative practice, gain insight into the creative process and consider the benefits of documenting, reflecting and using recall techniques. The process of capturing and documenting not only informed the work, but also formed the work itself, with visual and audio narratives being incorporated, like form becoming content. I felt I had new information or insight to go back into my practice with. The approach encouraged the adoption of performance type and documentary-based practices as a reflective practice. Using technologies and working methods that were unfamiliar and taking me out of my usual making practice or comfort zone. Recordings I had made previously were for instructional videos. These were controlled and were about sharing a skill or a product, but not a process. Sharing. The project was shared as an ongoing process on a personal blog and a community open online course website, a COOC. Both spaces enabled the sharing of the project as an open resource, as well as being spaces in addition to the physical studio to make, reflect, and for me to learn in. So these two slides are images from the personal blog space that I used. The Making the Invisible Visible project was as much about making visible the parts of the creative process which are usually hidden to me as the creator, as it was about making them visible and accessible to a wider audience. Sharing and making the creative process more transparent or open gave insight into a creative practice. It attempted to capture the thinking behind the production and decision-making, go beyond producing a series of how-to instructional videos. The creation of artworks can seem mystical to outsiders, and portrayed in this way by artists who wish to keep their processes enigmatic. The presentation and exhibition of artworks can add to this mystery when accompanying text, narratives and titles are selective in giving insight. Exposing or revealing the process as open practice is an attempt to demystify the creative process and make the thinking and the development of a piece of work accessible. Although there are potential issues regarding what we choose to share, how we share it, and with which communities we share with, this form of open practice is potentially a method for learners to explore how documenting and sharing their making processes can enhance and develop their work. This approach encourages students to adopt performance type and documentary-based practices for their own reflective practice. The research so far has explored how using technologies and interdisciplinary approaches to document a creative process can reveal what is hidden, change how we think about our practice, how we share this practice, producing OERs that benefit our own practice and others has a potential impact on how we teach and learn from the creative process. There are interesting questions to explore: personal identity through a creative making process, finding a reflective voice, and using technologies to stimulate recall, observe and respond to what is often hidden to us. So this is a film of what at that point was the final piece, the conclusion, and it's just a handheld film of that piece of work. The research indicates that using technologies to document creative processes has a potential impact on how we teach and learn from the creative process. Using technologies to stimulate recall, observe and respond to what is often hidden are powerful teaching and learning devices for the maker and potentially others. The Joint Information Systems Committee, JISC, consider how OERs can be looked upon as a process as well as a set of products. This is because educators need to rethink the way in which they create, use, and distribute learning and teaching materials. Using digital technologies to make the creative process as visible as possible and sharing this in a virtual space enabled me to view the process as an outsider and able to be on the outside of the process looking in the same way anyone accessing the project as an OER would. At this stage of the project, how others have accessed the project as an OER remains to be assessed. But future developments of the project will focus on how this form of open practice could potentially be a method for learners to explore how documenting and sharing their making process could enhance and develop their working practices. This approach encourages students to adopt performance type and documentary-based practices as a tool for reflective practice, with a view that digital technologies can enable a more analytical, critically reflective and visible process for creative practices. Thank you.